Hey Wastelanders, this is Gary and welcome back to The Last Ranger. I'm going to do my first fight video or comparison video. I got these knives from the Apex Pass Around, courtesy of Sencut. This is the Sencut Kyril and this is the Sencut Scepter. So this is a package deal. They wanted to send these two knives around, so I took it upon myself to just do a different kind of review. Maybe a comparison or a fight, a versus. So both of these knives have a kind of a same appearance, but I think this one is considered a black micarta and this is one of them is considered a dark green, and I can't tell. I look at both and I'm like, they look the same, but I think this is dark green and this is black. They just look the same. They share the same steel, 9CR 180V micarta. They each have a black wash blade. It's a nice black wash blade. I like this type of black wash. I like that they stone washed it afterwards. And so they share a liner lock, similar liner lock, and they're both deep carry and both left hand friendly or right hand friendly. In fact, they got the same pocket clip, and they both share a lanyard hole. So let's see how they differ, like just comparison. I'm going to first compare a factory sharpness test using this piece of paper with the Scepter. Let's see how sharp it is right out of the factory. Four cuts. Went through that like butter. So let's compare the Kyril now. I don't know if the bend got it hung up, but it seemed to do well on the other cuts. Yeah, it was just kind of a hiccup. So I'm going to try another test of sharpness. I'm going to try to test a toilet paper roll as my final sharpness test. I don't expect any of these, either of these, to perform very well, but let's just see. This is the Scepter. And this is the toilet paper roll. And let's see if I can slice through the toilet paper roll. It has to perform without like any kind of help. If I put it up against there, it would surely slice through there. Let's just see it. Yeah, it's just skipping off to the toilet paper roll. Well, so let's try the Kyril next. I don't expect a budget knife to be super sharp. It would be nice, but I don't expect it to. Let's see if I can. It's starting to grab on. All right. So let's cheat a little bit and give it something to bounce up against. Okay. So I had to cheat, but it's still sliced through there. There was a little bit of pressure. Let's see the Scepter, how it does. I get another toilet paper roll. Let's see if it cuts through with it against the edge of the notepad. I would rank that not as well as the Kyril, but it did it. This did well on the paper, and this did well on the toilet paper roll. I mean, they both did well in both, but I think clearly the Scepter won out on the paper test, and the Kyril won out in the toilet paper roll. So I'm going to give it, I'm score it 0, 1, or 2 points. So I'm going to say that the Kyril did, I would say I'll give 1 point to the Kyril, and I'll give 1 point to the Scepter. They're not clearly as sharp as I like, but they're sharp. I'm going to test the ergos of the Scepter, and I want to let you guys know I pre-tested all these categories except for the factory sharpness. So I was thinking the Scepter has great ergos. You can choke up on the flipper tab, but it's not official choke up area, so I wouldn't count that. I would think I have large size hands, and you can you have to use the pivot going backwards. It's a little blocky. The Kyril, I like the Kyril better because it has a forward choil, and it just naturally wants to be held that way. And you can see I have a little bit knife poking out of my back of my hand, so I would rate the Kyril just a little bit better. I would say that with the Kyril, I would probably give it a 2 points, and I would give the Scepter maybe 1 point for ergos. Next, we're going to talk about deployment. Let's just take the Scepter first. It has 2 forms of deployment. It has the flipper tab, and it has the thumb stud. The thumb stud you'll always get a louder sound out of. This is more of a general sound, but when you flip it with the thumb stud, you get a really like a more of bass sound. So I like that because it has 2 forms of deployment. Where the Kyril, there's just a flipper tab, and that's it. Some may be able to flip it with the blade. I can't do that, so I'm just going to say for the general audience, it just has 1 form of deployment. I like the flipper tab better on the Kyril though, but I like the thumb stud better on the Scepter. Honestly, my hands are too big for the thumb stud. I have to keep my hands out of the way of the blade. I have a little bit trouble deploying it on thumb studs, but I still enjoy a thumb stud over a flipper tab sometimes. So I'm going to give the deployment, the Scepter is a +2 because it has 2 methods, and the Kyril has 1. Like I said, the Kyril has the better flipper tab, but the Scepter has 2. Okay, now we're going to check carry, the carry method, and show you how both knives carry. This is the Scepter, and it's an extremely deep carry, And I don't know how you guys feel about, I think deep carry is preferred, where the knife don't show at all, unless you add a lanyard that's pretty much invisible. So let's show you the Kyril right next to it. The Kyril, there's just a little bit peeking out. I don't know if you see that. It has the the lanyard hole right there. So I scored this way for both knives. I gave it a 1. So let's go over the price for what you get. The price of the Kyril is $43.35. That's what I looked at Amazon. I looked it up at Amazon and I took the highest price. I think I saw it as low as $42 if you pick the combination of maybe a G10 handle. Getting a knife from a well-known designer. This is a Fair and Forged design, so I think you're paying a little bit more for a Fair and Forged design, whereas with a Scepter, I don't know who designed it. It's probably designed in-house, maybe an in-house designer. They don't say. This price was $35.99. So price-wise, this is a little bit cheaper, but I think they even out, because if you pay maybe $8 more, you can get a design by a Fair and Forge, or if you don't care about Fair and Forge, you can go with a $35 or a $36 knife. So I gave both of them 1. So the score is 6 to 6 right now. So let's go over materials. Both are virtually the same. Both have bearings, ceramic. I don't know if they're ceramic bearings or steel bearings, but they're on bearings. They both have micarta. They both have the same steel, and they both have the similar fit and finish. They're very thin handles. This one's a little bit thicker. Honestly, this feels a little bit better in hand, but I still scored them on materials with 1 point each. So neither one I would call fidgety, but the Scepter is slightly more fun to open because it has the optional thumb stud deployment system. So that's probably worth a 1 point alone. The Kyril, I'm giving the Kyril 0 points for fidget factor. There's no fidget factor for the Kyril unless you just like to flip it out with the flipper tab and close it. I mean, it could be considered a fidgety knife, but for this review, I'm not going to call it a fidgety knife. So the Kyril gets 0 points and the Scepter gets 1 point. So let's talk about design. And let's start with the Scepter first. The blade shape is really pleasing to me, and I like that they found a way to give it 2 methods of deployment, either with the flipper tab, like I've been saying, or the thumb stud. Plus the stone washing is very nice. That's a plus. I don't care for the handle size or shape. It's very thin with big hands. You could see me having trouble with the deployment with the thumb stud. I needed to get used to it, and I haven't been carrying it for maybe a day, so I should have got used to it over again, because I wouldn't have made a mistake, because it's very thin. It's very thin for big hands. I would recommend, if you want to get this knife, that you have medium-sized hands, or just bear with it getting the thumb side deployment to work. It's not terrible. I just think it's average. I'm going to give it 0 points. So there will be no points scored for design for the Scepter. Where the Kyril differs, the handles are a little bit more comfortable. I find that it's very comfortable to choke up on the knife and hold it like that. I like the back choil that you can insert your finger in there, so you have like squeezing 2 choils to like really get a purchase on the knife. I like that they added jimping to this. The Scepter doesn't have jimping anywhere. I think the sheep's foot blade is a little bit more eye-pleasing and more useful in this case. Also, like I mentioned, a well-known designer, Fair and Forge design. It's good looking and well thought out budget blade. I think there was a little bit more time put into this design. I'm going to give it 1 extra point. So for me, I'm going to give you my final decision. I'm just going to give you whether to buy or pass on both knives based on my time spent with the knives. I wouldn't buy the Scepter. And again, it's all the things I mentioned. And don't take my word unless you have big hands. And if you're a medium hand or smaller person, you'll probably like the Scepter. But I just thought it was really too small for a big-handed person. I'm going to rate the Kyril +1 because I really like the Kyril. It's just I spent time with the Kyril and I've carried both, but I really was happy with the Kyril. Based on the ergos, it was very comfortable. It's really a handsome knife. I don't care for the micarta either. I failed to mention I hate the micarta. This is awful. I would like go with G10 or some kind of wood, but the micarta is very suck in my opinion. So with the Kyril scoring this extra point, the Kyril is clearly in charge with 9, while the Scepter scored an 8. So that's my take on my first versus. I don't know if you guys enjoyed that, but I just wanted to give another type of review. I've seen people do versus knives, versus comparisons and contests, and I thought these were very close to being the same knife, and I was just very curious if one would win out over the other. And I didn't test the sharpness test, so I really didn't know who would win. So, all right, guys. Take care, Wastelanders.